an MOU signing by RMI, Minister of Tourism and Transport Zane De Silva, and Minister of Home Affairs Walter Roban.
Let me know when you're ready. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for being here. I'm happy to be joined by the Minister for Tourism and Transport, the Honorable Zane De Silva, and Justin Luck, who's the Director of Island Programs at the Rocky Mountain Institute. The signing of this MOU marks the start of the Energy Transition Project in Bermuda, a project that seeks to fully transition Bermuda's transportation sector and diversify electricity generation options for Bermuda. I am pleased to be joined today by Justin Locke, who serves as Director of Islands Energy Program and is a member of the Rocky Mountain Institute team. He's actually the leader of the team that will be working with us in Bermuda. I am pleased also to be joined by my ever-energetic and hard-working colleague, the Minister for Tourism and Transport, Zane De Silva. And we're both happy to be here to commence this MOU and sign this agreement. Indeed. This is an exciting day as this government moves to transform the future of electricity and transportation in Bermuda to a more sustainable and efficient for everyone. And we are all encouraged by the possibilities this presents for us. The aim of this project is to start research around creating a more resilient and cost-effective energy future for Bermuda, which includes bus electrification and renewable energy sources. I would like to thank the members of the ministry who are with us today, the Director of Energy, Ginny Nicolai, and her team, particularly Aaron McKittrick, also the Director of DPT, Mr. Roger Todd, are here with us today. They have all contributed to where we are with this wonderful moment and the signing of this MOU. Our collective goal is to pave the way for a more cleaner and sustainable energy future for Bermuda. I will now turn over the podium to Mr. Justin Locke, who is here with us from the Rocky Mountain Institute.
Thank you. Justin. I'm just going to put on my glasses here.
Oh, okay.
Well, first of all, I'd just like to thank Minister Roban and Minister De Silva for the invitation and for the opening remarks. I'd also like to thank the Department of Energy for all their support, the Department of Public Transportation, the Regulatory Authority for their continued support and cooperation leading up to today. Having worked in islands my entire life, the Bermuda story has always been one of empowerment, not only to me, but of islands across the world. A small country in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, long known for being one of the most vulnerable countries in the world to hurricanes, but has refused to accept this reality, and instead of living in fear of extreme events and correlating economic shock, went on to develop and implement some of the most progressive and innovative building codes, construction standards, and cultural practices in the world that have made Bermuda the gold star, the global gold star for resiliency. Bermuda now faces a similar situation. where your reliance on fossil fuels for electricity and transportation has led to a high degree of vulnerability to economic shock in a globalized world. This reliance on fossil fuels has directly led to a higher cost of doing business and, more importantly, a higher cost of living for Bermuda and its citizens, which has exacerbated the economic gap between rich and poor, as well as made Bermuda less competitive in the global economy. Compounding this fact, Bermuda's reliance on fossil fuels on a per capita basis exceeds many developed continental countries, which are blamed for accelerating climate change. But Bermuda now has an opportunity to be the global gold standard once again, this time for the energy transition. By transitioning from a fuel that makes us unsafe, dependent, volatile, and unhealthy in fossil fuels, to a new fuel that makes us safe, independent, durable, and healthy in renewable energy, Bermuda has the opportunity to demonstrate that islands like Bermuda are not victims of global economic shock and climate change, but the ones bold enough to provide solutions. With declining costs of renewable energy and the clear economics around electrification of the transport sector, Bermuda can reinvent itself by transitioning to a lower cost, more reliable, and cleaner electricity system, making Bermuda a more attractive place to invest, to visit, and most importantly, to live. We have learned through working across several islands across the Caribbean that there are many challenges to the energy transition. Regardless of what your size, which you may think are intuitive, there are some key ingredients that we think that we've seen for success. First of all, you need a plan. It's critical that stakeholders such as the government, the public, the local utility align around a core vision to develop and achieve. This plan should be based on a strong technical understanding of the parameters of the electrical grid as well as the underlying economics of the transportation sector. It should chart out a pathway that leads to a transition, and it must have buy-in from all stakeholders, or else it will ultimately run into pitfalls later on. We plan to work in close collaboration with the Bermuda Regulatory Authority to provide independent, third-party, world-class guidance to ensure that Bermuda's IRP and supporting regulations are aligned with global best practice and tailored to the unique characteristics of Bermuda. Secondly, we need to act. Whether it's a big step or a baby step, it is critical to take action required to build momentum to the energy transition, thereby proving that the plan can be realized. Bermuda has already taken that first step with a recent contract signing for the 6-megawatt solar PV plant, which is Bermuda's first utility-scale renewable energy project. We aim to build on this project by conducting the appropriate pre-feasibility and feasibility studies to assess additional sites for solar PV and battery storage the electrical grid can handle, as well as where these new assets will be placed, given that you have limited constrained land space. Once we have completed this analysis, we plan to support the government and regulatory authority in publishing a tender for an integrated solar PV and battery storage project that will likely conclude several aggregated sites. In addition, we will work with the Department of Transportation to assess the viability of transitioning the public bus fleet to electric buses that will pave the way to electrify the entire transportation system. Lastly, it is critical to collaborate if the energy transition is to be realized. No one can facilitate the energy transition alone. It requires collaboration between stakeholders and with outside knowledge providers, and most importantly, with other islands going through the same journey. The energy transition requires human energy most of all, and it flourishes when given the collaborative and learning environment. At RMI, this is core to our vision, and we are now seeing utility engineers, government policymakers, and regulatory staff all learn from one another and tackle enormous challenges together. And tomorrow's Energy Summit is a perfect example of that. As such, we look forward to connecting Bermuda with other islands that are going through the same process and experiencing the same challenges. Most importantly, we hope to amplify the Bermuda story so that the Bermuda energy transition experience is recognized once again as the global gold standard around the world. On behalf of the Rocky Mountain Institute, I cannot say enough in terms of how excited we are to be working with the government of Bermuda and regulatory authority on this very exciting initiative. Thank you very much.
question? Yes, hi there. What is the time scale for when you're hoping that this plan will be initiated? I know you just signed the MOU, but what's the sort of the time scale?
Sure. So we'll be we'll be implementing the pre-feasibility and feasibility studies over the next year, and phase 2, which will be implementation, will be in year 2. So over the next 9 to 12 months, we'll be doing the requisite studies, and then following that, implementation.
And just for the minister, there was no mention of sort of changing the bus system into electric means in the throne speech. It wasn't never mentioned. Was this something that's always been in consultation, or?
It's a year away.
Well, I'll let the new Minister of Transport answer, and I'll supplement anything that he may need to supplement.
Well, that's an easy answer, Minister. You just heard Mr. Locke say that it's going to take 9 to 12 months. So after that feasibility study is done, then we'll decide on which way forward.
Any idea of the cost of the feasibility plan and everything else that goes on?
Sure. It's zero.
Just to supplement my colleague's answer, we're happy to say that this study by the Royal Commission is not costing the government any money. As has been communicated by them, they are a non-profit philanthropic charity organization, international, and they raise the funds for their projects outside of the government circle. So they're doing the work for us, which I might add, I think that the Bermuda public is getting excellent value for money. They're not having to pay for it. Not only that, they're getting work for 2 different ministries. What more can you ask for? And we're getting top international class research and development and advice for no pressure on the government purse.
Is there any movement in terms of replacing the chief executive officer of the regulatory authority?
That question should be posed to the chairman of the regulatory authority. It is an independent body, and the hiring of their staff is their statutory responsibility.
Minister, I would mind like. Go ahead, please. Mr. Locke, if I could.
Yeah, sure.
First off, welcome to the island.
Thank you.
The first step in this is a 9 to 12 month, essentially evaluating the feasibility of I guess, moving the bus fleet from standard
Diesel to EV, electric vehicle.
Is there anything that you could think off the top of your head that would prevent this? I mean, is this something that should be attainable in a place like Bermuda? So,
what I'd like to first note out that in addition to the EV analysis that we'll be doing, we'll also be conducting an analysis to deploy solar PV to meet Bermuda's renewable energy goals, right? So that's there's 2 studies happening in parallel, in terms of the EV analysis, obviously there's several requirements that need to be taken into account. Bermuda possesses a very unique narrow road infrastructure, right, that requires a specialized chassis. So that limits the amount of manufacturers that can produce an EV vehicle for Bermuda's requirements. So that's one challenge that we'll be having to address through this process.
Can you speak a little bit about how this partnership between your organization and the government came to be?
Sure. First of all, we're active in over 10 Caribbean countries, right? And we think it's important for us to bring in philanthropic resources, not only to support governments given the tight fiscal constraints, but to maintain our independence and objectivity. We've known about Bermuda for quite some time in terms of the successes that you've had here. Of course, the 6-megawatt solar PV plant was an indication to us that Bermuda is taking leadership in the renewable energy agenda. And from that engagement, we started in early discussions around a potential partnership.
Either of the ministers, if I could, can you speak about what this MOU signing today means in terms of the government's commitment to environmentally sustainable initiatives going forward?
Thank you for that question. I think it firmly establishes that we are committed to a cleaner, sustainable energy future, but not only energy, but in all aspects of life in Bermuda. We want to have a cleaner environment. We want to have smarter and more efficient transport, but not only that, not just have new buses, we want to have buses and other transport, including cars, because we're also quite committed to electrifying private transport as well. And one commitment that the Premier has given to the government, and this was made when we came into office, is that we're looking at electrifying the government fleet outside of the bus fleet, but actually the actual fleet of vehicles that the government has and how that can be properly transitioned as well. So I've already had some informal discussions with the dealerships in Bermuda about electrification and having more electric or even hybrid options in the marketplace. There's been an admission by them, but they probably wouldn't tell you this themselves publicly, that they haven't done as much as they could. And we've had a working group certainly in the transport ministry with them for quite some time, working out the issues around how we can bring more electrical vehicles to the marketplace. But the government itself is committed to that for private, but we're also committed to doing it for the bus fleet. So we believe this works for Bermuda. We want a cleaner, we want a more sustainable Bermuda, we want a better energy relationship, not only for Bermuda from the standpoint of it will allow Bermuda to be more affordable, but also it's better for the citizens and a cleaner environment for everyone.
I believe 8 additional buses were promised. Money was allocated in the budget for this year. Standard buses, are those still being brought in while all this is going on?
Yes, they are. Yeah.
Consultation period is currently open until the end of the month with the regulatory authority. I believe to date 8 alternative schemes to the integrated resource plan have been put forward. In something I pulled off of the Rocky Mountain Institute website today, it says that RMI will support the government of Bermuda, the regulatory authority, and the utility BELCO in advancing an energy and electric vehicle transition that meets the needs of Bermuda. I'm wondering, is this MOU that was signed today contingent of BELCO's integrated resource plan being adapted?
No.
No.
This is the government's own initiative. It's separate and distinct. I think it needs to be clear that the final integrated resource plan that will be presented will not belong to BELCO. It will belong to the country. If anybody does any research on the integrated resource plan globally, it becomes the country's plan for energy. Even though a licensed utility may present a blueprint of such, that is subject to public review, public consultation, and it can ultimately turn into something that even that utility didn't contemplate because of all the input. Our plan is operating the same. The IRP will become, because it's the RA that's running the process, will become the country's plan, and even plans that BELCO has already put in place will be subject to the final IRP and what it looks like. So the IRP, although submitted by BELCO, because they're our only licensed generator and transmitter of power and distribution and retail, bulk, the IRP will end up being a plan for the country with everybody who's given their contributions factored in.
Minister, do you consider, given the significance of the regulatory authority in the whole process of energy regulation, are you not concerned about the high turnover that we've seen from inception in their leadership? And what can be done about that?
As I've already stated, the matter of who is the CEO or the officers within the RA is a matter for those who run the RA. It is governed by an act that keeps it independent from government. But to add to that, we are concerned about any instability in any publicly mandated institution. And we will keep a watching eye on the RA with these matters, as we always have done.
Are you planning to do anything about it? But it doesn't seem as if there's a lot of cohesion within that group.
That's a matter and question you should discuss with the chairman of the regulatory authority about the inner workings and cohesion within the group. The government has a specific relationship with the RA, which we exercise quite with a lot of effort, and we will continue to work with the RA so it can meet its goals. But its internal workings and who it hires and who it doesn't hire is essentially a matter for them, because they operate independently, as we have no role in choosing who's the CEO, who's the CFO, or who are the officers of the RA.
Okay. The other thing is Mr. Locke. I'm not done yet, I just started.
We're running a little over time. If you have any other questions, you can field them to communications officers for the Ministry of Home Affairs and Tourism and Transport. I'd like to thank you all for coming today. Thank you very much. Yeah.